Yes. Welcome back. And welcome back to YouTube. Back on YouTube.
We're Ryder.
Mike Midnight Rider got that done. He's been on hold with YouTube's customer service for 3 weeks. And he finally got through last night. And they said, oh, sorry, just reboot.
Reboot, and here we are.
And we are back. I'm in all black everything. Jackson's in a TMA hoodie.
Yeah.
I like that. That's a sharp look.
That's a good one. I like this one.
And we are on with you for an hour, and Gabe DeArmond is going to be on with us at 10:15, presented to you by James Carlton of the Carlton State Farm Insurance Agency. Jackson says 40,000 plus will be on hand at the Dome tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that number's about right. I think about 40,000, give or take. But like I said earlier in this week, I think a lot of that's going to come late. You know, people
Walk
realizing,
up traffic.
Well, basically being like, you know what, it would be fun to go to the game tonight. And, we're going to go check Ticketmaster real quick. Bada bing, bada boom. There they are.
See what's doing.
Sure.
Fight Tiger, huge weekend in college football. This is a great weekend in college football.
First great slate of the season.
I mean, what is the game you're looking forward to most?
Ole Miss, Alabama, I would have to say. Oregon, Colorado.
Ole Miss is getting 7 against a wounded bunch of Roll Tides.
Yeah, and that's the thing that interests me is I have no idea what Alabama's going to look like.
I listen to a lot of podcasts, Brad.
Yeah.
I was listening to Reese Davis, Pete Thamel, and Stanford Steve break that one down.
God, I love Stanford Steve.
And Reese Davis, I believe it was Reese Davis of ESPN's College Game Day, said he would take Ole Miss if they were giving 7.
Oh, my God. So, money line, Rebels?
I really like Alabama.
Wow. Who do I
You know what
side with?
you can't do? Trust me, because I've tried to learn it. You can't teach size.
You can't.
And Alabama still has a monstrous offensive line.
Certainly.
They're just going to have to alter things. The question is, can they defend Ole Miss's game? And Ole Miss is now trying to run the football, which really hasn't been a Lane Kiffin play, so they're trying to do that as well. So you got that one. Is that a 2:30 tilt? Is that 2:30? And then you also have, at the same time, Oregon and Neon Deion.
I think you are
That's
right.
at 2:30. You got Florida State and Clemson. They love Florida State going and giving 2.5 points. You got the Gers playing at the same time as Ohio State and Notre Dame.
Yeah.
You got the relegation bowl with Washington State and Oregon State. I feel like I'm leaving other games out.
Here, I'll give you the slate for you, Tim.
Okay,
I'll highlight the highlights.
See what Gabe thinks. Gabe's with us at 10:15.
At 11 a.m., you can enjoy Florida State heading to Death Valley to take on Clemson.
Thank you.
And then at 2:30,
You're taking Florida State minus 2.5. Go.
To Florida State minus 2.5.
Okay.
And I would put a substantial amount.
Okay.
Colorado, Oregon at 2:30, along with you.
21.5 is the number the Ducks giving Colorado.
Yeah, that's in Eugene.
What are you doing? What are you doing with that one?
I feel like the over is the play. I feel like because Colorado, no Travis Hunter. They had the dogfight with Colorado State, who they probably would have lost to. At Colorado State, say just a tad more disciplined.
I'll say this. Maybe I'm off on this. And then you make such a mistake when you try, well, they really want to beat them. And then you start doing that. You know what? Numbers are numbers. You can take your emotion out of it. However,
That was a deep one.
if you're in a position to run it up on Colorado, considering what Colorado's doing.
Yeah.
I mean, Colorado has Ryan Wingo now visiting him, the St. Louis U high receiver who was, we thought, down to Texas and Missouri. Well, now he's going to the USC game next week in Boulder.
Yeah.
You run it up.
100%.
So if they're in that position to do it, wouldn't surprise me if Oregon hung like 70 on them to try to run it up.
Yeah.
That's why I'm adding my however on that one. What else do we have? What else? We have Ole Miss and Roll Tide?
Ole Miss,
2:30?
Roll Tide. And then also at 2:30, UCLA has to Salt Lake City to take on Utah. That's 22 versus 11.
It's a good game. It'll get lost in the shuffle tomorrow.
Yeah, and then at 6, you'll have Oregon State heading to Pullman to take on Washington State.
The relegation bowl.
Yep, at the same time as Missouri. And then Iowa heads to Happy Valley.
Getting 14.5. What do you think on that one?
I think Penn State covers.
Light out season.
Yeah, I think Penn State night game, that'd probably be top Mount Rushmore of toughest atmospheres to go into and win. I would say Happy Valley whiteout game.
Okay.
I think
LSU tonight.
LSU, yeah, Death Valley at night, between the hedges during the day, and then you can kind of maybe Tuscaloosa. It's up to you. Death Valley, Clemson version when they're good. But, I mean, Penn State at home is something else. State College goes crazy. So Yeah, that's the stay, and then Ohio State Notre Dame, of course, also at 6:30. So a lot of great football on this weekend.
It's a Jim Dandy of a weekend for college football. Gabe DeArmond will give us his thoughts on Missouri and Memphis. Brady Cook's health. He has been practicing after being listed as questionable on Tuesday. Eli Drinkwitz was on with Chase Daniel, and Chase Daniel, the former Missouri quarterback, now in broadcasting, and had him on his podcast. And he said if he doesn't practice by Thursday, then we'll be having a look at Sam Horn and Jake Garcia. But he did practice on Wednesday, and so all indications are he will be going tomorrow night at the Dome. Jackson says 40,000.
Yeah. I think I saw Gerard Hamilton, also of Power Mizzou, Gabe's cohort, say that he's officially listed as questionable. But like you said on the Chase Daniel thing, the Chase Daniel podcast, if he's practicing, he's most likely playing. So I would expect Brady Cook under center to start the game for sure.
I told the people last week what the status was of the money and how the money was on Missouri against K-State, while damn near everybody in this area thought K-State would win that game. But the money was on Missouri. I therefore have a moral, an ethical obligation, and what I would describe candidly as a fiduciary responsibility, because I feel like I manage everybody in this audience's portfolio, to let you know that the money is on Memphis this week. Does that concern you, Jackson? Are you concerned about tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. at the Dome?
This is actually the first question of my Little Piddles Angry Beaver 6-shooter.
Oh, well, then go ahead. Why don't we start it up? Angry Beaver making it possible. Mention Piddles. You're going to be downtown anyway.
Yep.
And you get $5 off a pizza at Angry Beaver, sponsor of the Little Piddles Friday 6-shooter, a tradition unlike any other here on 101 ESPN.
Yeah, and I have...
And YouTube. Welcome back to the YouTube. I got to go in the YouTube chat. Hello, friends. We're so popular in the YouTube chat.
Yep. And also a little bit of information about the Angry Beaver for our listeners. If you're going down to the Mizzou game, Angry Beaver is doing a shuttle. It starts at 5 p.m. and runs until 45 minutes after the game. So if you're going over there, you mention Piddles, $5 off any pizza, and then you get a free ride over to the game to watch these Gers defeat the other Gers. So my question is, with the money being where it is, and it being more on Memphis, does that give you some pause that the Tigers can head undefeated into Nashville next week?
I'm so emotionally invested. So I don't bet Missouri games unless I really feel like the number is off.
Same.
And also if it's a spot where it's kind of like, they're playing to play in some manual stimulation post-bowl. Thank you. I would not bet it. I would not bet it either way. But I take Memphis.
That's the world's greatest Jim Rome pause. I was so uncomfortable there. Oh, my God.
In my mind, I'm going, do I really care about having an angry Missouri guy? And I'm thinking to myself, no, I don't really. But that doesn't mean I think Memphis is going to win.
Right.
Missouri's going to be laying 6.5. And I just, here's how I wager. You know it. That's why you're able to pick out the games I'm betting, is where I go where the money is.
No doubt. Yeah.
You know,
I think that's the consensus, is like Missouri will win, because I've looked at the money line bets, and money line isn't crazy discrepancy. So I think like people are expecting Mizzou to win by a field goal. And so, hey, listen, I don't care how they win.
I think oftentimes when you win, there's an overreaction, and understandably so.
Yeah.
But that was an absolute coin flip last week.
Sure. But they did play really well.
They did play outstanding. They played really well as far as play calling goes, as far as Brady Cook goes, and Luther Burden's star continues to shine bright. But their defense on third down was bad.
As it was against Middle Tennessee State.
And their defense, or their offense on third down, was bad.
Yeah.
So these things aren't erased by a win.
Yep.
I'm happy that they won, of course, but I just, I have an acknowledgement. So yeah, hopefully I'll get mentions from my basically dead Twitter account.
That'd be lovely.
At 10 o'clock tomorrow night when I'm passed out on a Marilyn Monroe cocktail of pills. And I'll wake up on Sunday morning and I'll go, hey, this guy's celebrating a win on a Saturday night by tweeting at me. He must be having a lot of success with the ladies.
That is your sacrifice to the listeners. You will take the hell in the mentions if it means Missouri gets the victory.
That's exactly right. But you know what the number one priority is? I always got to be honest. Yeah. If I were betting this game, I would take Memphis. Am I betting this game? Absolutely not.
Same way. I only bet Mizzou basketball, not football.
I bet Piddles has blonde, glistening chest hair. That's from Tiny PP.
It's weird that Tiny PP would say that, because the top of my head is golden as it gets. And then on my face, it's also very, very light. Right. But once we get under the chin and then all the way down basically to the toes, it's kind of a darker, like light brown. So I always find that interesting.
Oh, wow.
Like my hair is very much blonde, but like some of my body hair is not.
Your thoughts on Jackson's body hair? Air
right.
Comfort Service text line 314-399-9646. Tim is so good looking it makes it hard for me to focus on work.
Isn't that true?
Sometimes if I catch myself in a mirror, I'll go, wow.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if I'm in the midst of a broadcast and you hear a wow, I've just seen myself.
I imagine the scene in Taxi Driver going on when you catch yourself in the mirror.
You talking to me? Gabe is excited about going into the Dome for the first time tomorrow.
Is this the first time at the Dome?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, there's Arrowhead Stadium. And then, so we'll talk it over with the Colonel. That's coming up next, presented by James Carlton. Then we'll continue on with the Little Piddles Angry Beaver Friday 6-shooter. This is Balloon Party, driven by Munganess, St. Louis Acura, and Alton Toyota on 101 ESPN. Well, is my mic on?
Yeah.
All right. Well, Jackson, they're not happy.
About what?
Thanks, Piddles. I threw up in my mouth with your disgusting description of your body hair. Great show, Tim. That's from the 636.
You love it and you know it.
Did this freak just tell me his pube color? It's from the 314.
A listener asked, so I answered.
No one is interested in the color of your body hair, Piddles. Just be better at your job. We would all appreciate it. That's from my guy, the Grape Ape Auto Detailing.
Well, Grape Ape, when I have my performance review with you, I guess we can go over that.
Oh, I didn't know you acquired Grape Ape.
Yeah, well, he's my boss.
Well, he's your boss.
Yeah.
Well, I thought you buy and sell people. Your trust fund, anyway.
Not Grape Ape.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is our pleasure to welcome to the program, fresh off of the Jackson pubic hair discussion, my journalism school cohort. He graduated. I did not. This is Gabe DeArmond, brought to you by James Carlton. Morning, Colonel.
Sounds like just another day on the show, huh?
Gabe, for whatever reason, I thought I read something on Power Mizzou where you said you had never been to the Dome, but then as I was thinking about it, and Jackson called you, I'm like, well, he probably was there for some of those Illinois games, so what in the hell am I thinking?
Yeah, I covered all those Illinois games. I covered a Jeff City playing a state title game there at one point, I know. So, yeah, no, I've been. It's, looking forward to getting back. Very exciting.
Boy, I got to tell you, if I'm reading between the lines, it didn't sound like a ringing endorsement of the facility.
It's fine. I don't know. It doesn't bother me. I mean, it always seemed a little bit dark. I understand that the lighting is better now, but it always
Crocky's gift
like,
before he left.
Yeah. Couple
it seemed a little dark back in the day.
Well, it was dark both literally and metaphorically. Colonel, the Missouri Tigers are 6.5 point favorites, depending on where you're looking. However, as you know, because we were texting about it last week, even leading into kickoff, whereas the money was on Missouri against Kansas State, this week the money is on Memphis against Missouri. What's your assessment of this one, and what does Memphis bring to the table that could be potentially problematic for the Tigers, the Missouri version of the Tigers?
I mean, Memphis is hard to read because they played two terrible teams in Bethune-Cookman and Arkansas State, and then they played Navy, which is it's just like a one-off. Like, you can't learn anything from a team playing Navy because it's so different from any other game they play the rest of the year. I mean, they put up good numbers offensively, and they've got a running back who can do some things, but I think Eli Drinkwitz's job might be tougher this week than last week, because last week, that's not a hard game to get your team up for. It's a kind of a traditional rival coming to your place. They beat you so badly last week. Everybody's picking you to lose, or last year, everybody's picking you to lose. That's a pretty easy one to get going for. This one, in a different atmosphere, on the road, in front of fewer people, it's against an AAC team, it's probably going to be a little bit tougher to get going. So I would not be surprised at a little bit of a slow start, early hangover.
I saw that you posted just moments ago on Power Mizzou that you're hearing good things about ticket sales for tomorrow. What can you tell us about this?
Yeah, I know that Missouri has really sold a lot of tickets since Harrison Mevis's kick went through last weekend. A lot of people decided they wanted to jump on board and see this one after Missouri got to 3-0. I don't have a specific number. I do know that, a lot of the upper deck is not for sale in this game. I think the limit's probably like around 40,000, low 40s of what they can sell. I don't know if they'll quite get to that or not, but I think that there has been a definite uptick in the last week.
Well, that's encouraging to hear. That's very good to hear. Jackson, you were on the over of 40,000, so look at you.
Still am.
All right, Jackson's bullish on it. Brady Cook with the report earlier this week, Gabe. I was monitoring your coverage, of course, on PowerMizzou.com of his situation. Did not practice on Tuesday, but was back out there on Wednesday. What can you tell us about the health of the Missouri quarterback and any other injuries of news, notes for both teams?
Yeah, I mean, he practiced Wednesday, and they're putting him, on their social media accounts returning to St. Louis and all that. I don't think you do that if you don't know he's going to play. I mean, I think it would be great for Missouri if they could get him a little bit, maybe a lighter day's work, if they could have a 3-touchdown lead in the fourth quarter and sit him down. And I'll be interested to see what the design run game is like. I'm not sure that's something you do until you have to do it. He'll be wearing a brace, I'm sure, in this game. He was in practice. But he looked good in the fourth quarter, and he's going to play. So I think that'll be fine. Probably the biggest injury for Missouri is tight end Brett Norfleet is out. Made a really nice catch last week in the win over K-State. Got hurt in practice at some point this week. We do not know specifics of what that injury is at this point in time and whether it's a longer-term deal or just a one-week thing. So it'll be, Tyler Stevens and true freshman Jordan Harris playing tight end this weekend.
Okay, there's some information on Norfleet. Yeah, he did really make a hell of a catch down that near sideline last week, and I know has some Missouri fans excited about what he could be bringing to the table. You talked about the psychology for the team going into this one because it's tough to not get up for a sold-out game against an old former conference rival, non-conference game that really was a determining factor. I want to talk about the psychology of the fan base because last week I talked about how 3 of 4 outcomes would have dramatic impressions for Missouri fans of Eli Drinkwitz. A win or a big win, and all of a sudden he is in a great spot with Missouri fans, and the Middle Tennessee thing is completely forgotten. A big blowout loss, and you have potential where people start going, okay, it's not going to happen in the rumblings of a coaching search in 3 or 4 months. Psychologically now, even though I think Memphis is only a 6.5 point underdog. This isn't like they're playing South Dakota. I think that there would be a thought process, oh, my God, Missouri absolutely blew it. They beat Kansas State, and then they lost to Memphis. And don't get me wrong, I would agree in that sense. But I just get the sense that people, it's not everybody, but I think some people might be taking this one for granted, and then therefore it could be more psychologically destructive than losing a close game to K-State because of the order of the way things have played out, that Missouri had an opportunity and then they blew it. Do you follow me? Do you agree, disagree? What do you think, Colonel?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I mean, Missouri should win this game.
Yes.
Losing this one would certainly be damaging, but what it would do is it would get back anything you gained last week, right? I mean, a lot of us thought they would be 3-1 after 4 games. Getting there by beating K-State, but then not beating Memphis almost feels worse because people have seen what you're capable of, and then you would go right back out and obviously not come close to that. I do think, too, there's a little bit of, I think people are getting a little bit too high off that one last week. I mean, it was a good win. Don't get me wrong, and I don't want to take anything away from that. But, like somebody asked last night on our show, well, what if K-State's just not very good? And I said, well, then Missouri's not very good either. They won on a 62-yard field goal at the buzzer. I mean, this was not a 3-touchdown game. I think both coaching staffs probably watched that film on Sunday and thought, hey, we should have won that game by 14 points.
Yeah.
I think if those teams played 10 times, I think they probably each went 5. So they're pretty close is my point. And I understand the excitement and the way it happened and all that. But I think the goal for this Missouri team is still find a way to win 8. And then, hey, if you can get a little more than that, great. But I think it's a little early for can they win the East and that type of talk.
Colonel, that brings me back to something you say, I feel like every week on your Monday morning 10 Things, I think, column on Power Mizzou, and that is things are never as good as you think and they're never as bad as you think. And that was important following the Middle Tennessee win. And that's what I think I'm kind of focused on. I know it's what gamblers focus on is the overreaction on football because you have 7 days usually in between games. And in that time, you can start convincing yourself things are way better than they are coming off a win, if it's a good win, or things are way worse than they are coming off of a loss or a bad win, for example, like the Middle Tennessee one, if there is such a thing as a bad win.
Yeah, and I fell into that trap a little bit last week, certainly. But that's the point of he's got to get his guys back on the ground and get them going. Most coaches will tell you the toughest time to coach a team is after a big win because you've got to convince them they're not as good as they think they are and they're not as good as everybody's saying they are. And, again, Missouri should win this game, but Memphis is not. If Missouri rolls the helmets out and thinks we're Missouri and they're Memphis, they'll get beat tomorrow.
I would never compare, and I don't think you would either. We've been following this team for about the exact same amount of time. Your father covered him for the Kansas City Stars, so you're a little more locked in than me in those earlier years. But with regards to the 3 biggest wins since 2007, I think we would agree, and maybe you'd include one that I'm not thinking of: KU 2007, Oklahoma 2010, and Texas A&M 2013. All of those games, Missouri, of course, won, and all of those were followed by disappointing performances. One against Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship game, one that probably is easily forgotten in Lincoln against Nebraska following beating number 1 Oklahoma, and then Trey Mason was allowed to run for, what did he run for, 732 yards? Is that what it was?
Yeah, I think it was actually 850.
It was 850 the following week. So Missouri hasn't been able to put back-to-back big wins. Again, I'm not saying K-State in the early season is up there with those, but I also don't think that that's an outlier and it only applies to Missouri. You're talking about 18 to 22, 23-year-olds, and psychologically, you have to find a way to keep them up at following what was a win where everything was geared toward that. So I think that's, in a way, unfortunately, human nature.
I mean, I get what you're saying. I also think that, well, first of all, I think you left out the second biggest win, which is 2013 at Georgia.
Yeah.
You know, that one was huge. They beat Arkansas to win the East here in 14. But the thing about
do you remember who they played after they beat Georgia? Because I know it would have to be.
No, but they won.
I know. They played South Carolina, but that was later in the month because the Cardinals were in the World Series. I wonder who was in between there. But yes, you're exactly right. That's a nice play. Georgia in Athens in 2013.
And my point is, like 2007, 2013, the reason those seasons turned out what they were was because every week was the biggest game they'd ever played, and they kept winning. Like, I understand they lost one at the end, but I remember 2007, we're sitting there watching KU every week win and go, Missouri can't lose a game. Missouri loses one game, this is over. You know, and they just, after that Oklahoma game, kept doing what they needed to do. In 2013, they lost the South Carolina game, but then just kept doing what they needed to do. And we're not that. I mean, this team they haven't even played a conference game, so we're not to that point of having that discussion with this team. Your overall point is right. It's tough to come back from from such an emotional game, especially just the way it happened. I mean, the rushing the field and all that doesn't happen if Missouri wins that game by 14 points.
Right.
But because of the way it happened, it was this huge emotional thing. And now, I mean, it's the mistake we make, and it's more true in college sports than in pro sports. I mean, one week just doesn't impact the next week that much. Sure, if you go play that game 9 more times, you're going to have a really good season. But you're not going to go play that game 9 more times. I mean, the truth is the really good teams, and Brian Kelly made Missouri fans mad when he said this at the beginning of the year, but he's 100% right. The teams that end up having years like Georgia had last year, the reason they have it is because on the couple 3 weeks where they don't show up and play really well, they're still good enough to win. Right? I mean, Georgia was still good enough to win at Missouri last year, even though they didn't play a great game. And so that's the difference between, a great season and just kind of a nice season that ends in the Texas Bowl or something like that. Is the top tier teams win with a B or a C game. I thought Missouri won with about a B-plus game last week. Now, there will be weeks that's not good enough, but I think Eli Drinkwitz, if you told him you can go play a B-plus game 12 times and take your chances, I think he'd probably be okay with it.
Sure, because he's probably going to win 8 games, if not more, in that, especially with the start of the season schedule here in the month of September. Opportunity to make it 4 in a row to start tomorrow night at the Dome, 6:30 p.m. And then, Colonel, we're not going to talk to you for a little while, and that's because you are headed to the Ryder Cup in Rome. How about this guy, Jackson? These are your kinds of travels.
That's like Mount Rushmore kind of thing, to go to Rome to watch the Ryder Cup. That sounds incredible.
Yeah, so I'll miss you guys badly, but
wow, I picked up a little read right there.
Same read I picked up on the Dome analysis.
Yeah, that's a good read. From the Dome to Rome, Gabe DeArmond.
Look at this guy.
Yep. I'm sure I'll see you tomorrow night, though.
I'm actually going.
All right, good. I'll see you tomorrow night then.
Wow, I sense skepticism.
Yeah, he's dubious as all get out.
Yeah, taking my 6-year-old. Colonel, always enjoy talking it over with you. And, of course, as you said, we will see you tomorrow night.
Thanks, guys.
There he is.
Thanks,
That's
Gabe.
Gabe DeArmond. From the Dome to Rome.
That's
The
good.
Colonel.
That's really good.
Now I'm excited about my talent yet again. The Colonel, brought to you by James Carlton, the Carlton State Farm Insurance Agency, online at carltoninsurance.net. We'll take a commercial break, come back with the Little Piddles Friday six-shooter presented to you by Angry Beaver. This is Balloon Party, driven by Munganess, St. Louis Acura, and Alton Toyota, 101 ESPN.
This is Action Jackson with a Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. The Cardinals lose yesterday. Final score 6-0 to the hands of the Milwaukee Brewers. They will take on the San Diego Padres tonight on the West Coast. First pitch, 8:40 p.m. That was our Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
Welcome back. It is Balloon Party. Tim McKernan, Action Jackson with you. Fresh off a segment with the Colonel Gabe DeArmond. That's brought to you by James Carlton. And the six-shooter is brought to you by the Angry Beaver. Jackson's already tempted our tummies with the taste of question number 1.
Wow. You went Dome to Rome, and then you just did an alliteration festival like that?
I think people wonder how and why I'm so great, and then they hear something like that and they're like, whoa.
Right, it's something we can't fathom.
You can't comprehend it. I think you just appreciate it and you go, we're lucky he was born here and his dad was effective at selling advertising. I think those are the things you have to say.
I say that every night before bed.
Jackson, do you have a second question on the six-shooter? You have to, don't you?
Question 2.
Production value, just through the roof. Looking at Deion Sanders and his long-term outlook as a football coach, do you think that he is a guy who will ditch Colorado as soon as a major blue-chip program offers him the head coaching
I feel like
role?
I'm on First Take.
Or do you think he'll be a program builder in Boulder?
Of course, on First Take, they're showing a gentleman sliced his finger again.
Why are they bleeding so much on
They keep cutting
ESPN?
themselves on First Take. This is the second time this week. But this is a First Take question. And we're going to it a weekend. We got some local topics. And we're going, where's Deion Sanders going after he leaves Colorado? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah.
And now that the YouTube's back up, the people can enjoy it. Here you go. For all of my friends on YouTube, it's back.
And your arm is good, too.
I got the Steve Sachs disease.
Yeah,
so if there was a guy over there, it would have shot through the roof. I guess Tallahassee. Randy Carricker was listening. He goes, it's Tallahassee.
One would think, but...
Because we've already done this question, this hackneyed question.
Well, let me present to you a spin.
Okay.
UF.
If this is the question, will the NBA work in St. Louis? Question 3.
No, but I'm willing to go there. Let's say, just for the sake of argument, the University of Florida is in a weird spot. Maybe...
You think he goes Gator?
I'm asking the question. That's a blue chip program. That's a place where you can get massive recruits. He said before that he's not a Seminole. He graduated from an HBCU. Maybe, I don't know. I'm throwing it out there. Would he go against his former alma mater?
I don't know. I guess I like him at Colorado. I realize that might not be there for the long haul. Tomorrow will be the next 8 days will be quite defining for Deion Sanders. But hell, he's already turned the thing. He's already won, so to speak.
Yeah, their season total was 3.5.
And he's going to get that. And yeah, he might get worked the next 2 weeks. That's certainly in play. They've lost their best player.
That's a big part of it.
That sucks. I hate that because I wouldn't be as down on their chances tomorrow if Travis Hunter were playing. Yeah. Is he worth 21 points? I don't know. So what is your query for pivoting off of the Gator thing?
Pivoting off of the Gator thing? So I was pivoting on to.
You're pivoting on to the Gator.
I don't know. I don't know what his plans are, but you'd think a guy like that, if you're a AD at a blue chip school.
Oh, he's going to have people coming after him left and right.
That's what I'm saying, and it'd be hard to turn it down.
But I think one of the reasons why, outside of his press conferences and, the style with which he operates, is because he's taken a program that was as bad as any in the Power Five over the last 20 years and has turned them into, and again, we got TCU might not be great, and Nebraska's in the rebuild mode, and Colorado State nearly got them. So still, the thing that I think overwhelmingly, who was it that I was watching say this? And I can't remember. Maybe it was Saban, but I feel like maybe it was another college coach, perhaps, saying the thing I love about Deion Sanders is he says, this is the system, and either you're with it or you can get out. I don't really care because I know what I'm going to do is going to work. and doesn't care what the pushback is. And he believes in it, and he executes it, and that's what I love. I personally love that. So I like it at Colorado because it's so kind of random, and if he's just bouncing around and becoming a mercenary, and then it loses its appeal to me. You know, if he goes to Florida and wins, it doesn't mean as much as I think winning in Colorado. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
Even though Colorado, when I was growing up, was an absolute monster, 5th down national champions, and so on and so forth. What's question 3? If that was question 2, I'm concerned.
Well, I can only do what I can. Just quick fun.
What does that mean?
Nice. Filling dead air. I'm bad at this. Fun fact, first Mizzou game I ever went to was Mizzou versus Colorado.
Oh, is that right? What year?
Probably been my brother's freshman year in college. So
Well, not all of us know what years your brother was in college.
I know. That's when my Mizzou fandom started. 2006, probably.
2006?
Yeah, 2006. That's when obviously my sports fandom started. All right, question 3.
Question 3.
This one is like you might have to settle in for a second.
Oh.
But are you willing to settle in?
Sure, of course I am.
Because I find this interesting. So I'm going to read an excerpt of this article because in conference realignment, so much is going on, and the Boise State AD has proposed a promotion and relegation system.
I'm familiar with it. You sent it over as one of the links.
Yes, sir. So Boise State Associate Athletic Director Michael Walsh has created what he is believed to be the first formal proposal on the subject of promotion and relegation for college sports, specifically college football. He has written an in-depth plan for a 3-tiered alliance of 24 FBS football teams, Pacific, Mountain, and Central time zones, with the opportunity for promotion and relegation at the end of the season. Many folks are kicking around the concept of relegation promotion or mega leagues, but this is probably the first I've seen of someone putting pen to paper and looking at it comprehensively. Wash's goal is to create a lucrative football package while allowing Olympic sports athletes to avoid the coast-to-coast travel now required in Power 4 sports. And of course, as I'm reading that, the pop-up ads are coming left and right, Tim, and I couldn't be any
The inner monologue is now the outer monologue.
Yep. Walsh suggests that Mountain West and Pac-12 teams be promoted and relegated at the end of every season based on performance. I'm sorry, that was the wrong section. Walsh suggests the Mountain West and Pac-12, as well as regional teams from the AAC, Conference USA, or WAC, could participate. All other sports, including men's basketball, will remain in their current conferences in order to maximize the opportunity for NCAA postseason automatic qualifiers. The first football tier could be a Power 5 conference, though Walsh noted the decision will ultimately lie within the college football playoff and NCAA, who award the designation for voting power and revenue distribution. The proposal suggests modest bonuses based on a base sum for each tier, performance bonus, and a specific bonus for tier status. So what this does, because we've talked about...
It's like on the Senate floor, there's a filibuster.
Sure, but I'm getting there. We've talked before about promotion and relegation, and the biggest problem that comes with that is revenue, because if you're going to get relegated, you're going to be losing revenue. However, there is performance bonuses that could stand in the way of this. So Power 5 teams could be promoted and relegated all the same while eliminating the coast-to-coast travel that could be a problem for, let's say, track and field or swimming or something like that.
I like it.
Is this interesting to you?
It's absolutely interesting. Is he only saying this for Pac-12, or is he saying this for everybody? Because if you're Missouri, for example, or Illinois, for example, I don't know why you, as a borderline program over the last couple of decades with some great years here and there, would subject yourself to this. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. It's saying suggest the Mountain West, Pac-12, as well as the regional teams, AAC, Conference USA.
Then I think it's live. Yeah. I think it makes sense, because if you're part of the SEC or Big Ten, why would you ever engage?
Right.
But for those, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
And possibly could be kicked around, changed up a little differently for those Big Ten.
And then to me, it increases the probability of happening, even though it might still be remote. Yeah, because again, I just keep hammering it. Like, why would you? It's like when people say, oh, the only way to really fix baseball is if there's like the Marlins and Pirates get relegated when they, spend $25 million on their payroll.
Sure.
Like, but why would the Marlins and Pirates owners ever, under any circumstances, agree to that? It's not going to happen. The only people who will agree to something that doesn't on the surface make a whole lot of sense are those who are desperate and need to be part of a club. And at this point, Oregon State and Washington State and schools such as Boise State may need to do something desperate. So it increases the chance of it happening. I would love it. And I also think the thing that probably won't get near as much attention is it makes sense financially for those non-revenue generating sports to not have to travel coast to coast.
Exactly.
And the price that costs.
Oh, yeah.
in addition to the headache it is for the athletes to have to go back and forth across the country. So I like it. I love it. I would love if that were live. I like the idea. And I saw the Oregon State athletic director said you have to actually consider this. He's making some good points.
100%.
Now, Oregon State, of course, is in the category of being desperate.
Yeah.
But I love that. I mean, I would love this in sports across
Couldn't agree more.
the board. I love what they do in the EPL. Well, that's one of them that does it over there in the UK with the relegation and the promotion.
Yeah.
I mean, it's huge.
It gives interest outside of just the championship.
Exactly
because
right.
teams who are fighting at the bottom are fighting to stay up. And, European soccer is different because they're trying to get in the Champions League. But the idea of performance-based tiers and money you can get, it would just create more interest outside of just the top. And if any sport needs more interesting parity outside the top, it's college football.
So I love the idea. I would love to see if there's something to it because those schools actually need it. SEC and Big Ten schools, no. All right, we'll take a break. Come back with the final segment of Balloon Party here on 101 ESPN. Welcome back. Balloon Party driven by Munganess, St. Louis Acura, Alton Toyota. Final segment of the week. Back on Monday. Jackson, will we be talking about a Missouri win?
God, I hope so. I don't know if I can handle it.
Just give me hope going into Brian Kelly coming to Columbia, where he
Still got to be Vandy.
dances upon the recruits. Jackson, do you have any other questions on this 6-shooter?
Oh, I sure did.
Which you read for 3 minutes.
Well, I asked if you were ready to settle in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I could have popped 2 Ambien.
Right. But I think that's kind of what the listeners want. They want
just hearing you read with
they want me
zero vocal inflection.
That's not. Now, come on. All right.
We can play it back for you.
I mean, because I was reading. It's
Tonight
tough,
at 11
it's tough for
when
me
I'm
to
trying to go
read.
to bed.
I'm not as good as you. All right, here we go.
It's good that you know that.
Question 4.
I like that one. HBO Max has announced that they're starting a live sports streaming section that will be an additional.
Bring back winning time. I watched the final. That's where I am. I'm so mad that series is over. I believe it's coming back. I really think it's coming back.
But it won't be on HBO.
That's probably the case.
If it is, then maybe they can change the name to Showtime.
I understand why they didn't, with Showtime being a competing network. I've read so much about it. I am so mad. I know this wasn't the question.
No, but I like it. I like where you're going.
But I am so upset that and they only had 7 episodes.
It's BS, and it ends like people are going to watch
business. I understand it. But,
yeah.
Well, what? I mean, HBO should lose money. It has a lot of cost.
No, I hear you. Warner Brothers. But either way, it's people are going to watch this show 20 years from now, and then they're going to get to the final episode, and they're like, "This is where it ended."
Yeah.
Like.
That's why I really do believe it's going to come back on Netflix or something else.
Yeah, I would love that. I would love for that to be the case. But
God, there's so much to go. And by the way, James Worthy was like I remember he was one of the most important pieces of that entire operation.
Oh, yeah.
And the man wore goggles. In this one, they didn't wear goggles. Did he not wear goggles until later on in his time in the Lakers?
I think that would be the case because they didn't have Kareem in goggles until the moment where he messed up his eye.
Okay. All right. Well, either way, point being, James Worthy was kind of like, there's James Worthy, and he misplayed a ball in Boston. Anyway, I'm mad the show went away.
I am too. I think it's baloney.
I haven't been this upset about a show going away since Different Strokes and that cute little Gary Coleman. What was your question about HBO Max?
Well, HBO Max has announced that they are starting a live sports streaming section that will be an additional $10 a month to those who already subscribe to HBO Max, and it will feature NHL, NBA, college hoops, and soccer.
Oh, we're gonna get game. What games are they gonna have?
This is early reports here, Tim. This is
But all the games are on already. So what games are they getting?
That is a question. I don't know where they're acquiring it.
Your rec league game on Wednesday night, is that going to be on?
Then everyone will agree. Get Pittles more touches. I mean, Lord, we're going to drive straight down the lane.
You're like the Justin Fields of this rec league team, complaining about your offense.
Well, I don't think they're listening. If they are, then they'll know.
You know what you are? I've decided you're a problem in the room.
I am. Yeah, big time. Yep. Here I am complaining. I haven't complained my whole sports career, but now I am. Do you think more and more streaming sites will get into the live sports game? Will this just further the confusion of watching sports?
I just don't know what they're showing, so I don't know how to react to this. Everything's already on television. You just need a map to figure out where it is.
That's what I'm saying. Here's another point on the map.
But what are they going to be showing?
NHL, NBA, college hoops.
I mean, are the people at ESPN and TBS aware of this?
Well,
they're just going to hold up a phone and stream it like those perverts in the basement do? I don't know.
No, so I mean, TBS doesn't have the rights to every NBA game, but I don't know how they're handling with the local games, like the locally broadcasted games. Because if you have Bally's here, you get
like
the
when
Grizzlies.
the Kings and Pelicans are playing, it'll be on HBO.
I believe so. I'm sure it's through their conglomerate ownership that they're getting the rights to some of these games. My question is more so, do you think you could see Netflix getting into the live streaming section?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. We've seen it with Apple and Amazon. Is this just...
It's the only product on television now in which you, quote-unquote, have to sit through the commercials.
Yes.
Is live sports.
Right.
I suppose occasional breaking news when local news returns from its proper place as the train of modern transportation and builds up a snowstorm to turn it into a foot of snow that winds up being a sprinkle. Those are the only times where people are glued to local television. Otherwise, people stream. Most people stream. And therefore, live sports has premium value at the moment. So yes, it would absolutely make sense for those companies that are flush with cash to get into that game.
Would agree. Would absolutely agree.
Well, I guess that's it. I mean, it's 10:59. If you wouldn't have read that question about relegation, it would only be 10:40. But here we are.
Worth it.
Absolutely. BK and Ferrari, I'm sure, will pick up on that. Good Morning Grant has wonderful hockey questions. He peppered me with those in a commercial break earlier. So that's coming up. Jackson, we'll talk it over on Monday here on Balloon Party. For Action Jackson, I'm Tim McKernan. This has been Balloon Party, driven by Mungan, St. Louis Acura, and Alton Toyota on 101 ESPN.